everybody. Welcome to T.O.'s Roadhouse, in the house with Mae Estes. So good to see you.
So good to be here.
We've drank from the same water.
Yes, sir.
So you're from Hope, Arkansas.
I am.
grew up in Foreman, which are places just around Texarkana. I was originally born in Atlanta, Texas, on the south side of Texarkana. So we ran around that same area. Watermelon Festival back home.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I went to college at Magnolia. I mean, my first band, my guitar player Jeff Gray is from Hope, Arkansas.
That's
So I spent a lot of
crazy.
time in his trailer house learning, writing songs, and doing things with him before I came to Nashville. So it's pretty wild.
Man.
Yeah,
It is a small world, ain't it?
it really is.
It is. It is so cool to get to talk to you and us be from such a similar place because, yeah, it's a specific way of life growing up, But
It is.
it is country music. That's
There's-
all I've ever known.
There's a lot of history down there too. They say Hope, Arkansas is the birthplace of President Bill Clinton. So that's
Yeah, we have the sign that says when you pull into Hope, it says birthplace and boyhood home of Bill Clinton, and I'm coming for that sign. I want them to put a little and Mae Estes. We can be a smaller font down there, but
that's
I gotta.
awesome. You need your own sign and your own street.
You said it, Tracy,
That's
not
right.
me, but
That's right.
yeah, Hope, Arkansas. And speaking of the Watermelon Festival, so I was in that competition they had called Watermelon Idol
Okay.
for probably at least 6 or 7 years, just as a young kid trying to just win that talent show. The year I finally won it was 2013. And guess who the big headliner was at the Watermelon Festival?
Oh my.
Sitting right here, Mr.
Wow.
Tracy Lawrence. So I was really excited to get to meet you. And I was about to move to Nashville as soon as I graduated college. I went to Henderson in Arkadelphia.
Yeah.
And so I got to shake your hand and say, hey, what advice you got for a young gun moving to Nashville? And I think you were just like, hang on tight, give her hell. And you were like, Belmont's a great school. And I was like, well, I can't afford to go to Belmont. So
It's such a hard thing when people ask for that advice. You want to be gracious, but really it's everybody's, even though we're all chasing the same dream, the journey and the pathway is completely different for everyone. You don't have the same history, the same family makeup, your same musical experiences. So it's a journey, and it's such a personal thing. And that's one of the things I love about doing this podcast and talking to peers on a one-on-one level, is finding the commonality that we have and the differences that we also have in the journey. So when you were growing up, there's a lot of influences that come from that area. I mean, what were some of your early influences? I want to guess 2 of them because I hear it in your voice. I want to guess 2 of them and see if I'm on track.
Okay.
Leanne Womack,
the Queen.
Rhonda Vincent.
Oh, man.
Am I on
You
point?
spot on.
Okay. I was trying to think of the third one, and I couldn't figure out. Maybe it would be Faith Hill, but I wasn't sure. I don't think she might not even be in your top 5.
We love some Faith, too. Yeah.
But there's little nuances in your voice that I hear so much from the first 2.
It's so spot on. That's hilarious because, man, I studied those ladies growing up, and my family had a bluegrass band back in the day. So it's funny you mentioned Rhonda because I grew up kind of equally split between country and bluegrass.
I can hear it.
That's where I learned a lot of my harmony work and things like that. And but yeah, all the classics, as you know, in that area, and I'd love to know what it was like when you were there too. But there wasn't a music scene really down in Southwest Arkansas. Even, Texarkana was a big, big city to me back in the day. And going back now is funny, but it was Opry's and hayrides. And so I was 10 years old having to sing all the classic country. And so I truly grew up singing Loretta Lynn, Tammy Wynette, George Jones, Keith Whitley, Merle Haggard. And at the time I was frustrated. I was like, I want to sing Martina, and I want to sing Carrie Underwood was, new at the time, and I had to study the classics, and now you can't make me listen to anything new.
Yeah, and there's so much about the 10,000 hour rule, but when you're learning to sing, at least for me it was, I would crank the stereo up and I would try to get every nuance of every phrasing lick and the way that they trailed off of the notes. I studied Keith Whitley extensively, him and Randy Travis and Merle Haggard and those guys. And there's little qualities. I mean, I was listening to several of your songs as I was prepping for this interview, and I can hear there's a little trill that you do that's spot on to Leanne.
Oh, man.
There's a little thing in your voice, just the way that she does that little trill move, you're spot on with it.
I love to joke that Leanne taught me to sing when she don't know it. But
You had a chance to meet her yet?
I got to meet her quickly at the
Yeah.
Arkansas Country Music Awards. I guess it's been a couple years ago now, and I think I just blacked out. Pretty much was like, hi, Leanne. Everyone says I sound like you on TikTok. Like said something stupid, and was like,
Don't that frustrate you too? Because you get so
uh,
excited. I was that way when I met George Strait for the first time, and it was just because he was my guy,
yeah.
And it's still weird, but even to this day, the guys from the '80s, the Reba and Strayed and
Hmm.
all of them, I still get nervous around them. Even Vince. I mean, when you get around those, because they were legends to me before I came to town, and I
Yeah.
still look at them differently than I do. Even all my peers from the '90s, Chestnut and Diffie, and all the guys. Everybody that I toured with and stuff. Even though I've worked with just about everybody from the '80s, I still get nervous. Isn't that crazy?
But I think it's important more than crazy. It is a little rare, I think, these days because people's ego just will take them away in this industry. So I think it is so admirable that you are still
I'm
so
still a
in awe and
fan.
a fan
I
of
am.
your peers because you're right there with them, and so
And I and
that's
I
important.
I look at it too, like thinking about the people that laid the foundation. I mean, there's so much history that got us to this point.
Yeah,
That music wouldn't be where it is. The country format wouldn't be where it is without all those people, all the way back to Hank Williams Sr.
yeah,
You think about the journey that this format has taken from bluesy folk music and mountain music and stuff. It's come a long way to a
yeah.
world renowned format. I mean, we're played all over the world now.
And the genre just the lines keep getting blurred on what country music even is anymore. And that's kind of my argument is whatever feels country and somebody connects with it, that's great. But it is important to always look at your history and where you come from in whatever aspect that is. But with country music specifically, that's why, I lean a little more traditional and definitely favor that more than a lot of people. But I think mostly it's just they were the first to do it. There must have been something really special about it, and I think that's why you carry those kind of roots with you as you grow.
It makes me excited to see folks like you and like Zach Top that are coming in that are revitalizing the traditionalism of country music, because I thought we'd lost it forever there for a while, but I feel so much of it coming back, and it all comes down to great vocalists that have good song sense
Hmm.
and picking songs or writing songs that have good hook lines and good melodies and a great vocal delivery. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wonder if this gap of or lack thereof those kind of artists, we've kind of been here is the thing. And I can't speak to Zach's journey specifically. He's a buddy of mine, and I'm obviously rooting for that dude. he
Yeah.
is he is unbelievably talented. But like, I've been in Nashville for 9 years now and feeling like I'm screaming my name from the rooftops. And I feel like I've almost landed in that two country for country lane. So it was like everything had to come around at the right time where people were open to that traditional or, 90s kind of sound coming back for us artists to lean that way to even have a spot to live in the commercial spot.
It seems like it kind of goes on 10-year cycles, and it has from the time I got here. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go back to when the whole new sound in 1989, you had Garth Brooks and Vince Gill and Clint Black and Travis Tritt and Chestnut and all those guys
Take
that
me
came
back.
in, Garth, that broke out, and then the whole young country movement through the 90s. And then toward the end of the 90s, it started getting a little fluffy, and music kind of fell off a little bit. And then we had a transition in the 2000s. You had guys like Keith Urban that were taking over in Rascal Flats and had a whole nother wave of really good music, but it changed a little bit. And so much of it is dictated by the record labels. And I'm glad to see that they've let go of the pop push so hard and letting traditionalism come back. How's that journey been with your label people standing your ground as a traditional country artist?
Yeah, I think my journey was a little specific because I had been at it for so long. I'd been in town for 9 years, 8 years, I guess. I've been at my label for a year now, and I had done everything independent. And in this era we're in music, that is like doing all of my graphics, all of my promo, running all of my socials, doing all my marketing, uploading every song for release. So I know
Wow.
the back end of every DSP, promoting them for playlists. Like, I did every single job. Maybe not that everybody at my label's doing. I hope they bring a lot more than my amateur self, brought to the table. But it is a very strange position to be put in where you're your only team member and all of a sudden you have 200. So that's been my biggest journey with the label, is just trying to figure out how to work with a team when I've never had one. But as far as being traditional, that's who I was when they found me and who I still am. And I was lucky to have the time in my life and in Nashville to really figure out who I am and what I want to say before I got the massive opportunity of getting a record deal. Because, man, I would have told you I was ready the second I moved to town. And if they would have swooped in, I would have either done whatever they told me to do or chased, so-and-so next to me who was having success. And so I'm really grateful that I got to figure out exactly who I am and what kind of country music I want to make before I got the big fancy team around me. And so now, like I said, they know who I am and what I'm going to do and what I ain't going to do. And so far, it seems like they really believe in what I believe in. And that's amazing.
So working with a big team like that, as you kind of acclimated into the record label world, how much creative freedom have they given you? Are they pretty harsh in their directive? Are they pretty adamant about so many things? Or are they giving you a lot of latitude on the albums? I mean, how well are they to work with?
Well,
Because it can be either way.
Oh, yeah. And I've heard all the horror stories. Like I said, being in town this long, I have heard all the nitty gritty, and all the things they want to say about labels. And I just tried to approach it in my own way because, like you said, everybody's got their own journey. And creative wise, I've been really lucky. I'm still really new into my label deal and process and all of that, but we've released 3 songs so far and have a really big one coming now that I'm really excited about. But I love all of those songs. I coincidentally wrote all of those songs because I want to be that artist. All my favorite artists cut outside songs. So I'm always just wanting best song to win. But these songs are ones I really believed in. I got to produce them exactly how I wanted to, with the band that I wanted to produce them with the producer, who's just a great friend of mine and a hit songwriter, Paul Sykes. He's newer to the production world. And so I feel like they gave me a lot of reins on doing what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And like I said, I'm a little stubborn in that way. I don't know that I'm ever going to do it any other way. And they know that, but letting me be me was a really, really big, it helped my trust with them.
That's a huge thing too, because I know for a fact, even through the 90s, I was always given that kind of latitude. I was given pretty much a lot of creative control from very early on, but that wasn't that way across the board. And I know people that had hits that wanted to go in a different direction that their label didn't, and they're having to sing those songs now. They had a bunch of hits on them and they're freaking miserable.
Yeah.
And I don't have to experience that. But it's good to see that labels are loosening up again, because I think a true artist should have creative control, because how can you be the best artist you can be if you're not given the latitude to experiment and grow and try and even fall down a couple of times? It's very important.
Yeah, and it's also important to be knowledgeable about what you're making massive decisions in. As far as, like, I always use, when I moved to Nashville, I started working 3 jobs at a time from the second I got here. I don't come from any money, and it was very hard to pay my bills in this town.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry in Nashville before I got to do this thing full time, which is a crazy dream come true. But in the restaurant, if you got a manager who's trying to manage this restaurant and has never worked as a server or a bartender, has never done the job that they're trying to tell you how to do, it's a lot more difficult in all aspects. First of all, you're going to butt heads because you don't really respect the person, because you're like, you can't possibly understand what I'm trying to do because you've never done it. But also, just for logistics, it's not a great way to run your business. So that's what I'm looking for in the team that I'm still very much trying to figure out how to build, is like people who at least are willing to get their hands dirty in certain aspects. Like if you want to have thoughts about my touring, then I need you to come out on the road with me and see me hopping from plane, train, automobile on 2 hours of sleep and trying to do my hair and my makeup in the car before I get to this and this. Like, if you're going to have calls on what I'm doing, then I want you to actually know what's involved. And so I think that creative conversation comes to me too. Is like, if you're not in the room, you're not hearing these stories, a lot of it is labels knowing or your team knowing the artist too. Because if you got a real authentic artist who's singing about stuff that they've lived and it's a reflection of who they are, then you got to know that human.
And think about this too. As you develop and move forward with the relationships right now that you have with the team members on your record label, if you have a rollover in personnel, you really have to realize that has a massive effect on your career, because if the head of the A&R has become a close personal friend, and the head of the promotion team and the regional guys become a good friend, you've got the trust and respect from the label head, and an open line to have dialogue and communicate with them. The pieces of that change, if you don't go in aggressively and reestablish yourself with the new people that come in, you can get lost in the shuffle. I've been on situations where they do a whole A&R changeover, and then the person that signed you's gone, and the people that are there don't care about you. They want to bring their own people in. They want their people to produce you, and then everything goes to crap really fast.
Yeah.
And it can turn over just without you even realizing anything has happened.
What did you feel like was the most solid piece of your team, like that did the most, helped you so much with the legwork, I guess, of your team? Because it gets big, man. You got down to like attorneys and all kind of stuff, but like, what's the most crucial piece of your team, you think?
Management. If you have the right management, there, the ones that have your back, more so than the label. When the label has a different agenda, they're viewing you more as a commodity. A personal relationship with your manager should be on a different level. Um, my early manager years ago came from the promotion world, and he was very knowledgeable. He knew a lot of radio people out there. He was a master at manipulating the charts. I saw him do some things with records that I don't know if you could get away with now. And we also, back in the day, we didn't rely completely on the promotion staff. We always hired outside promotion staff to coincide with everything the label was doing, because they're splitting their time between all the other artists that are on the label, 4 or 5 or whatever they're managing. And so they're working all these other products at one time, and they will sell you out to get somebody else moving forward if the situation presents itself right. You have your own team in place that keeps fighting for you all the time. That was a big thing for me that helped us achieve all those back to back #1 records back in the day. And I don't know if I'd have them without it.
Yeah, man, you got to play ball.
You got to play ball.
That's something I knew when I came to Nashville, but it don't make it any easier, man. The business part is a whole other part, and I think we're all called as artists because we feel it in our heart. It's it takes over your whole life because of the passion you feel for it, and that is a very separate part of your brain from don't get your feelings hurt. Nobody owes you nothing, and it don't matter how much you think they like you. They're going to do what's best for them and their business.
Well, absolutely. And the people that are running those labels, and the attorneys and everything else, everybody has a different agenda than you do. You always have to be the one that's watching your own back, because if you don't do it, nobody else will.
Amen.
But finding there are good people, and you have to have good people around you that get to know you and know your personality and know what works for you, and really have your back, and want to see you continue to do well and be successful. It sounds like you're in a good place.
Oh, I really have been surrounded by incredible people, and most of it is me trying to just stay out of my own way and figure out when to put my foot down, and when to, not let every little thing feel like it's the end of the world for me, because you just care so much. That's what my whole thing is. I just care about every little detail so much, and the bigger you get and the more you got going, that's awesome, but it's a lot harder to keep your thumb on it all.
When you're doing all your socials and all that stuff, I mean, I'm sure that was very time consuming. That seems to be kind of the commonality with a lot of the younger artists that are just getting into the format these days. That's kind of necessary, isn't it? You have to do that to get recognized. If you don't have a social media presence, labels really won't even look at you now, will they?
Man, it is. Yeah, I hate to say it out loud, but it's kind of everything. Yeah. At the point, from just the perspective I've been in, I dove in 2020 like everybody else into TikTok. That was against my will. My publisher and manager at the time were like, "You need to give it a shot." And I was like, "I'm not a dancer. I'm a country singer." And I got on there and just embraced it. And all those heroes we were just talking about, that's what I started doing, was showing up and covering old school country. And people came out the woodwork loving that same stuff. And so that's how I started building. I just called my series like 19 something and just pulled out. I wouldn't play anything past 2000.
Mark Wills has high praise for you, by the way.
Oh, man, my buddy Mark. That's crazy that he's been so sweet to me, and like all through the Opry, and he knows what it all means to me. So that means a lot. But it's kind of just dove into what really solidified the love of country music for me. And that's how I found the people that now follow me and support me as an artist, is because they started we met each other through those same kind of songs. And so that really helped me get more comfortable with TikTok. And I had a pretty big year in like 2021. We were going viral all the time and had a few songs that did really well, and all that was independent. So I had no promo, no marketing, none of that. It was all just sharing it on socials, and it was doing really well. But it just becomes a job. I can really have a good time on socials in the same way I can writing a song, but I can also get really burnt out on writing songs when it's going into a, tiny cubicle kind of room every day on Music Row and trying to just turn that inspiration faucet on. It's the same with socials when I'm like, I'm not creating this because I'm excited to share with y'all what I'm doing in my life or what I'm celebrating, or I am begging you to pay attention to me. And it is cringy. It feels so uncomfortable because that's just not how I carry myself. I don't walk around waving my hands around like, please, please, God, please look at me. I'll do anything to get your attention. And the social media setup in the music industry right now feels that way a lot of the time.
Yeah, I can see that. I struggle with it. I don't do very well with it. That's why I'm doing this. This
Yeah.
allows us to have a presence without me posting 10 times a day, which I would never do.
Yeah,
I'm
dude,
not comfortable with all that.
Well, and it ain't authentic anymore. And
No.
authenticity is really important to me. And I'm one human being. I can't respond to every single message I get. I can't post 10 times a day. I'm actively trying to live life and create new music. And, it's impossible to do authentically and honest and with the same standards that I hold my performance to and the same standards I hold my writing to. And that's what's frustrating for me is it feels like I kind of have to half-ass it, and I don't half-ass anything well.
I like that. What's your touring situation like? And let me preface this with a couple of things. We have a show coming up together at the end of the year in December.
Yes.
You, me, and Lainey Wilson. So back in 2020, me and Justin Moore were out on a co-headline deal, and Lainey was opening for us. Lainey was by herself with the guitar. I think she was in a van traveling around, didn't have a bus. And there we're looking at just 4 years later, and she is the queen of country music right now. She's
Man.
exploded after 10 years of scrimping and starving and struggling in town. What's your touring situation like now? Are you in a van? You've been able to go out in a bus? The label got you propped up? How much are you working on the weekends? What's going on?
So I have a funny story because like I said, I've been in Nashville. I moved from South Arkansas in 2015. I've been in Nashville just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do to get this music I think is important to as many people as possible. And it is so expensive to tour.
Yes.
That as an indie, I'm out here working, wearing all the hats, trying to do all that I physically can do to grow my career. And touring was never one of those dots I could connect. I couldn't get a venue to email me back, but I've made all the fake ones, like before I had management, like this is so-and-so's manager or whatever, and still could never get a bite from venues, first of all. Then I would have to figure out how to stay away from my 3 jobs in Nashville. I have to miss work, which means I ain't making any money. I ain't on no payroll nowhere that I'm making money if I'm not there. And then you got to travel. You got to have somewhere to stay. That was one of those boxes I could never check as an indie. And I really ended up having to get into a spot where I had help. And so we signed with Big Machine and we signed with WME at the same time. And I finally had some big guns who knew what they were doing instead of me out here trying to figure it out like one more thing. And so this year is my first full year of touring.
Really?
This year, yeah. And so it's funny because I'm brand new to that and been doing a lot of the rest of it I've been singing with a band since I was 7.
Yeah.
And so this year I have been thrown in the deep end. I ain't even going to lie to you, man. I'm not sure what state I'm in most of the time. I am so damn tired. I'm so tired.
A lot of radio station visits.
We've been throwing in some radio tour and hopping on with a bunch of artists. They're kind of doing this new thing, it seems like now, where you'll get just a couple weekends on a tour instead of, they used to do like indirect support was the whole run for however many shows. And now it kind of feels like you just pick up a weekend at a time, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, we started out with Jackson Dean. We did 20 dates with Jackson all over Montana, Wyoming in January. Yeah. So WME has heard from me on that.
So you've been out there since the first month of the year. You've been grinding.
Whose genius idea was it for us to tour in Wyoming in January. Jesus Lord.
Kind of cold up there, ain't it? Yeah, those
Yeah.
buses are a little drafty too.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Hey, we are not on a bus. Let's go ahead and move to that part of the conversation.
Okay.
I was giggling so hard inside when you said, "Did the label set you up?" No, sir. I got a lot more to prove to them, and we are just getting started. And I have been. This is the stuff I feel like people don't talk about. And I am also terrified somebody's going to think I take it for granted or I'm complaining. But
No,
God,
but it's just laying it out so people have an understanding that this is not a bed of roses. This is a grind at times.
yeah.
You gotta sacrifice a lot to do this professionally.
And it don't mean you're not grateful for it, but it don't mean it ain't hard.
Yeah,
either.
and sometimes you get tired and you get pissy.
Oh, yeah, and you're just a human. Hell yeah.
That's right.
I'm a very emotional human. That's why I started making music. Songwriting for me was that place where I could tell my perspective however I felt it organically, and nobody could tell me that's wrong or you're overreacting or that's not how it happened. So like music is I've always been the drama queen. I feel everything heavily. But touring, yeah, I have learned so much this year. We have been genuinely, I chase a bus either in my own personal car that I drove up here today. My husband's truck, which he loves for that to be my touring vehicle because he's a mobile mechanic and he works out of his truck. So when we were really hitting the road earlier this year and I was having to take the band in he's just got a Denali, a GMC truck with a camper shell on it. He would have to unload all of his tools from his mobile mechanic. We would fill it to the brim with suitcases and gear and then drive, 8 to 10 hours somewhere. So we have been out here doing it. And we just recently rented a Sprinter van for the first time. So that was a big deal. And when we got to go out with Dierks Bentley earlier this year, and we drove 16 hours to New York in that van.
Uh-huh.
And then drove about 7 or 8 the next day to the next gig. And, that's how those weekend runs work when you're at this level. And you're not even getting to hang out with the artist you're opening for because they're like, come hang on the bus after. No, sir, I can't hang on the bus after. I have to drive 4 hours tonight to get to my sound check on time tomorrow.
Yeah, because you're playing earlier, so your sound check is at a different time. Your stage call is at a different time. People think, are you going to all these places and you're seeing all these things? No, I see the back of a venue and maybe a gym, and the rest of it's there. You're going on early. You're getting your stuff out of the way. You're packing up, and you're gone before the headliner even gets done.
The biggest thing is it ain't about you. When you are, especially like first of 3 opening acts, it ain't about you. You truly are just lucky to get to be a part of it, and you better make light and stay out of the way and take what you can get and keep on trucking.
And the great times are when it's 105 degrees and the sun's hitting you right in the face and you're going on at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and you're sweating so bad you can't even feel the strings. And then you'll switch to November and you still have a couple of outside shows left and it's 28 degrees and you're outside playing in some venue and the wind's cutting across you and you can't feel your fingers.
Oh, man.
Isn't it great?
It is something though, like when you catch me on the right day, I am just so tickled to get to even have these stories to tell now, and like just all the chaos we've been through this year. It definitely wears you down and I'll get pissed off real easy, but mostly you got to have these moments because I wouldn't appreciate, even sitting where I am now and having to work as hard as I have for every single thing I've got, and I had to bust my ass for it, and that's just how my story goes. But then I appreciate every little bitty thing because I know, how special it is, and nothing comes at me too fast to where I would miss really, really appreciating it.
Well, for every one of us that slide through the cracks, I say this all the time, there's thousands of kids that'll never get it, never get a chance to hear themselves on the radio. There's too much competition, and being able to have a little separation and to give yourself an opportunity to be successful in this business is an extremely rare thing in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
It really is.
And you got to be just a little plumb crazy.
Well, I like weird people too, and you never find any stranger people on the planet than musicians and songwriters and artists. We're a strange lot, and pack us up in a Denali truck for a 10-hour drive on a regular basis. Everybody's smell.
My poor band.
You know everybody's scent. It's especially with nasty hairy-legged guys.
Oh, we got a no farting in the van rule, buddy. I got a 19-year-old guitar player his name's Nate Gregory, and he is unbelievably talented. He's probably going to get poached from me. That's what I'm expecting. Somebody, Tracy, if you take my guitar player, I
Oh,
swear.
I got my guitar player. I'm good. Yeah.
But no, yeah, I had to set him up pretty quick. I was like,
Where's
no,
he from?
no farting in the van.
Well, it's the crap we eat on the road too. I try to eat a lot
Oh,
healthier than I
man.
used to, but when you're eating the convenience store burritos at 2 o'clock in the freaking
Oh, yeah.
morning, that's not something you want to do in a van. No,
Hey, when we
but
find a
we do it.
Buc-ee's, we are living
I
large,
love me
man.
some
We're
Buc-ee's,
like,
boy.
this is heaven.
Yeah, I love me some Buc-ee's, and they let the buses into Buc-ee's. They don't let trucks in, but I like me some Buc-ee's. They're pulled pork sandwich, son, and they got banana pudding.
Oh, it's just quick, but it's a
Yeah.
decent meal because that's the thing. You're run ragged on the road, but you also can't take care of yourself. And I'm one of those that kind of just I get so busy, and then we're packing up merch after the show, and then I get back to the hotel, and then I got to get showered and get everything ready to leave early again in the morning, and then I just ain't ate all day. I'm one of those that gets too busy, and I'm like, well, damn, I just accidentally miss meals all day today.
Well, when the mask drops, you put yours on first because you can't help anybody else. You don't put yours on.
Boy, don't I know it. I'm gonna
Gotta
learn
take care of yourself.
Learn that the hard way, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's a grind and it'll wear you down. Usually, I'm all right till about October or so, and then about October, I'm ready to be done. I mean,
Yeah.
when you get to the end of the year, especially when you've been grinding it out all year long, I mean, it does catch up with you. You get tired.
And I'm trying to learn that, speaking of Lainey, I feel like Lainey's been one of those that really talks about trying to fill herself back up and has been honest in a way I haven't seen in a long time with people who are just open about the journey and how it is really hard and takes a lot from you.
It does, but as an artist that's dreamed of it since you were a little child, when you get the opportunity to do this, you don't want to miss out on any opportunity because you're afraid if you don't take advantage of the opportunity, it won't come back around because things will change and you wind up wearing yourself down too bad. I'm sure you've got your own strategy, but for me, I have to sit down early. We're already booking next year. I'm already putting my blocks in because I've learned for myself there's points that I break down when I start burning out. I block family time. I block burnout points where I'll take a week here and a week there, a couple of weeks here, and just kind of juggle it through the year. And you've got to learn to do that for yourself. I mean, there are always exceptions. There's always career opportunities that pop in on something that's like, I can't turn that down. They're those big marquee things, take television and award shows and things, but you got to map those things out. It's very healthy if you do that early on in your year.
Yeah, and it's about longevity too, I think. Like that's a word that's been really important to me as an artist, and that's I think why my path is going to take a lot longer because I care about laying a strong foundation so that when I lay my next row of bricks, I know that first one's solid and whatever I build is going to last. And that's important to me, and I think it takes a lot longer to do it that way, but I think you got to slow down in the moments, planning for the longer future. You can't just do the flash. You can't make the flash in a pan kind of decisions and plan to have a different career. So
and sometimes if somebody says, I got to have a decision right now, sometimes you just got to wait a couple of days and to take a breath. And that's hard to do in this business because people move on pretty fast. And sometimes you do get handed those things. I got to know now. I got to know right now. And that's kind of frustrating when you need a little bit of time to digest things and kind of see what the rest of your year looks like. What's your fan base that you're building look like? Are they young folks? Are you hitting an older demographic? Is there a balance of it? I mean, what are you seeing that's gravitating to you that you're connecting with out there on the road?
Well, the first half of my audience is the ones that I know I've got nailed down, and that's the old dogs. Honestly,
is that the first layer of bricks?
That's the first layer of bricks. If I can get them to keep streaming and turning their Facebook app on and all this stuff, then we'll be doing good. But that's the kind of music that they grew up on and they love. I hate to like self-proclaim an old soul. It's way better when somebody else calls you one. But buddy, I fit the bill. I promise.
And you are.
I'm a nerd for classic country, and I want to know the story about why it all came to be. And I literally watch old CMA awards from when they started on. They're all on YouTube or all on the internet, and I watch that. That's my pastime is watching that kind of stuff. So like, I completely nerd out on it, but I get that audience. It's like my mama's age audience. Yeah. And I know when I get to open for like Nitty Gritty Dirt Band in the theaters, I was like, these are my people. And I don't feel pressured to like, look at me, here's an upbeat. I pull out my favorite songs I've ever written and they're listening and they love them. And then the other half, I like to think we're getting some young guns. I will say that is like a concern. I would, or some criticism I've heard is like, you can't keep covering just all this old country nobody's ever heard of. You're not going to get the young audience. But man, every other comment on my TikTok is, you and Zach Top are saving country music, or you and Zach Top need to do a duet together. And so I think I land in that same audience that's eating up Zach Top right now, that is looking for those modern artists that, I mean, we're going to sound modern because we grew up in the time of the world that is, right now, but you can tell that we learned our craft by studying artists from a certain era.
So analytically, as you look at those numbers when they come in, look at the people that are streaming you. I'm sure one of your best relationships are the people and the labels that are doing those things, since you handled so much of it yourself before you got your deal. How do you gauge those things? I have a hard time with it when we release things music wise, and we're not going to radio anymore. But I have a hard time gauging what things are impacting, what they're not. You read the comments and all that stuff, but I gauging when you put things in the show, when you change them out. I mean, how do you gauge all those numbers? It's very foreign to me because I didn't come up in that, so I'm asking because I just don't know.
Well, I will tell you, anybody who tries to act like they know is lying to your face.
Okay.
And we can analyze the data all day long, but like the algorithm changes constantly. And so you can absolutely see a video performed well and reached a portion of an audience that you've never touched before. Like, those are facts that you can use.
Do you see your hot spots?
But it changes constantly. That's the thing. The target that we're aiming for on social media is a moving target.
Wow.
And your weapon changes every so often. Like, the time you're supposed to hunt changes. Everything, every variable is changing constantly. And that's why it's so impossible to predict. So you can watch those numbers, and they are helpful in a lot of ways. I have a great team right now that's studying those like crazy. But honestly, no, I have had really viral success, and I have had the exact same kind of content or exact same song even perform, show it to 5 people, and I have 300 some odd thousand followers. So I have just spent so much time in the weeds with that stuff that I just don't think you could study it all you want to. And I just don't think there is a formula to it.
It was so much easier for us because, you got to feel a record impact. You got to feel it move up the charts. And then you could look at your top 10 markets where your best record sales were. You could even get it down to what Walmarts or Targets, what the music stores were selling and which ones were doing the most impact. It was just so much easier to gauge how you toured and which market you had to be more conscious of. Your record sales weren't doing that great up in the Northeast. Got to take a better package up there. You're not going to play as big a venue, but when you go to Texas, you can fill these places up.
Yeah.
But you were able to gauge it more. You can see all those numbers. I mean, is the South a stronger market for you that you feel? Do you do better up in the Northwest? I mean, how do you? I mean, because you can feel it when you go out.
And honestly, I think that's my biggest missing piece. That's why I've been in Nashville for 9 years, and I'm driving my personal car 16 hours to play a show opportunity, and losing money to do that, to be honest with you, because I haven't figured out how to connect those dots.
But the label should be able to help you with that, with a bigger staff and more resources.
Yeah. And I hope so. It does feel like labels these days are pretty much saying go viral. And we're all trying to figure out how to do that, including the label. So
and once you do it, it's not like you have a template, then you can do the same thing again and repeat that. Because once you go viral, it's like, okay, I did that once. What do we do and how do we do it again?
Yeah.
That's got to be very frustrating.
That is frustrating. And touring has been really helpful for me because I genuinely do this because when I connect with a human through music, it makes me feel so seen and like I'm doing exactly what I was put on this earth to do. And it makes them feel that way too, because they've connected to something that a complete stranger wrote and it feels like it's just about them. And those kind of interactions are all that keeps me going. And in this town that has eaten me up and spit me out a few times since I've been here. So when I get to see them in the meet and greet line, that is my everything right now, because even when I'm up there playing and I'm solo acoustic for a lot of these shows, which will eat your lunch. I don't know if you've gotten
I've had
front of a crowd, Tracy
yeah.
Lawrence, lately, where no one, you have before, but where no one knows who you are. They've never heard your name, and they sure as hell did not buy a ticket to come see you tonight. And you walk out on the stage and you have nothing but an acoustic guitar.
It's very lonely.
Good luck. Good luck, man. And you just building calluses, and I'm in my head because I'm just an overthinker. I just am. And so I'm up there the whole time like, oh God, she hates me. He's on Facebook. He does not give a shit that I'm up here. Like,
hey, the trick too, Charlie Daniels always said, don't look at the people that aren't giving you what you want back. Find that one person that you make eye contact with. Focus in on the handful of people that are giving you the love back that you're giving to them. Block everything else out.
Amen. And they're there.
They're there.
But the same way a negative comment. Like, I don't know if you've ever scrolled your comments. You shouldn't.
I don't even have my passwords. Horrible. I don't get on any of that.
But you see one bad thing, and there's thousands of people telling you how amazing you are, how the songs changed your life, but there's one lady that's you look like you're taking a shit while you're singing. And I'm like, Cindy?
Thank you, Karen.
I'm going to ruin your whole life, Cindy, right now. Like, hold on. I'm calling in reinforcements. Like, we're done here.
That's why I don't get on there. I can't get on tab. I tried to get on TikTok several years ago, and I think I got, in the first 2 days, I was in 5 cussing matches with somebody. I was pissed off. Man. I can't do it. I just can't. Yeah.
I have to really, work very hard to not pop off, and usually my husband's a good sounding board where I'm like, this is what I want to say. And he's like, but he knows he can't. I mean, that's why we work so well, is he's like, well, I wouldn't advise that, obviously, but you do whatever you're going to do. I'm like, okay, fine.
So being an old soul, now let me see if I can set this up the right way. I love, even before I knew what love was, when I was a little child, there was a song that Kenny Rogers had called She Believes in Me. Do you remember that song?
Oh, yeah.
And I would be like 7, 8 years old, and it would make me cry just thinking about what that must be like to be going out and playing music and stuff. Songs move me so deeply, even before I really understand what all those emotions truly were. That's always been a part of me. Do songs do you that way when you were little?
So much so.
That's not normal. You do know that. Most people don't get that connected with it.
I'm starting to figure that out, because even when I got to town, like 10 years ago-ish, when I was like 20, 21, I was still able to sell stories that I had not lived or felt. And I've always had that some kind of special ability. But I mean, and you'll see me singing, like, it looks like I'm hurting, because I kind of am. Especially on the deep stuff. I'm feeling it. And I don't know, it's a God-given gift and ability to be able to tell a story like it's yours.
Absolutely.
And I have no control over it. So I don't mean that complimentary to me at all. I mean, I open my mouth and I take on this story, and I am that character. And I don't have any control over it, but I feel that way every time I sing a song. And it's funny because I started out, like I said, in the classic country world, and I'm just a product of my mama's taste. Darlene loved classic country music, and she just doused me in it. But I was singing Don't Come Home a-Drinking with Lovin' on Your Mind when I was 7 or 8.
That's the good stuff.
I mean, Stand By Your Man, Tammy Wynette. Like, I was singing about real grown women stuff that was honest and unfiltered. And I think that's why I am the artist I am. And I hope to continue to run full speed in that direction, because that's what I grew up singing, was just uncomfortable honesty.
I love it. Okay, so we're going to do something different that we've never done before. So our producer, Lindsey, has put together 10 cue cards, and I have not seen them. So I guess we're going to play a little game. And Junior and Scott are going to read these questions to us, and I have no idea how this is going to go. So
I'll ask the first one.
Oh, my Lord.
George Strait made his acting debut in 1992.
Pure Country.
Yep. Pure Country. That was easy.
She smoked you on that one.
Because I was being gracious. Everybody knows that.
This is terrible. Who put me in a 90s country trivia against Tracy Lawrence? This is not nice.
Yeah, but you were quick. I mean, I'm just...
Okay, I'm terrified.
All
right, question number 2. Who sings the song Boot Scootin' Boogie?
Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah. Ronnie Dunn. Ronnie done.
We both were like, too easy. This
Yeah,
has to be
it's-
harder. I was
yeah.
like, Brooks is done.
Yeah, that's golly.
All right.
We need a new producer.
That's the problem. We're the artists. Obviously, we're going to blame it on literally everyone
Are
else.
we
around us.
Absolutely. Okay,
Not really.
come on.
What was Tim McGraw's first #1 hit?
Indian Outlaw.
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
Really? Oh, Don't Take the Girl.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine.
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 Name 3 90s country artists whose name starts with the letter G.
Garth Brooks.
Garth. I can't think of a single other one now.
Was he the only one?
Nope. You got to name 3. 3 90s country artists whose name starts with the letter G. We got Garth. Both of y'all tied on that one.
Mhm.
And G has 2 sounds now. I had to give him a
George Strait.
Okay.
Yeah.
The J got me. You know, my brain was like,
She went to
good,
the judge.
it's not a
Judge,
J.
judge.
What do you mean?
Uh,
Gary Allen.
okay. That's good.
Jesus. That was.
Too many to choose from.
But we're on the same
I
page.
figured
We're
that.
both like, no, that's not a question.
That was better.
for
That
us.
was a little more challenging.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
Screwed it up. Yeah.
I hate this.
Okay, this is a finish the lyric.
Okay.
Can't believe it's been so many years. You'd better grab a chair
And a couple of beers. Looking good in your 3-piece suit. You know, I always knew you'd take the business route. Do you want more?
Yeah, she's good.
I don't know why I chose to rap it instead of sing it, but that happened now.
I will say Jody Messina. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Extra points here.
Oh, this one's easy. Which female artist's debut single was Independence Day?
Martina McBride.
See, she's on fire. She
It's
don't need me.
I sang that. My mama got in trouble for letting me sing that one too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
According to Shania Twain, what's the best thing about being a woman?
The prerogative to have a little fun.
See, she's
Please.
killing me. I love it.
That's right. I don't think I would have got that.
Oh, this is good.
I love it.
This is really good. I like this. If I'm driving through Georgia in late July on a day hot enough to make the devil cry, what am I headed to do?
Watermelon crawl.
She's on it.
I love it. Have you met Bird yet?
I haven't.
Oh, he's a great guy.
He's
He's one of my
the man.
best friends.
I can't wait to tell him I am the Hope Arkansas Watermelon Idol of 2013.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all ready? This male artist hosted the CMA Awards every year from 1992 to 2003.
Vince
And-
Vince Gill.
That's right.
You got me. Barely.
Just a
Barely.
little bit.
I'm like, do I cut y'all off from the beginning? Because I'm going to start just
As soon
screaming.
as you know it, scream it. All right, last one. In 1998, Trisha Yearwood received a Grammy for How Do I Live? Who is the other artist?
Leanne
Leanne
Rhymes.
Rhymes.
Yep.
Very good. Very
Yep.
good.
Yep.
That's the
Yeah,
last one.
that was
Can I
awesome.
breathe now?
That was awesome.
That was intense.
Since y'all got
Those
warm.
were great questions. That was amazing.
Oh, don't prop her up like that.
Hey.
Golly. So y'all got some questions worked up over there, or did you just rely on the cue cards this time?
I'll just put you on the spot. Who's the best driver in your band?
Oh, let's go back to my control freak. I love to drive. I
Oh,
drive
okay.
as much as I can, which is worse for me.
Never
trying
let
to
the
get
bass
to
player
show.
drive ever.
I will say my guitar player is not allowed to drive ever. He literally can't back into the spots in his car. We have to back into my publishing house when we leave our vehicles there, and we have to back his car in his spot for him. So,
Bless. He's a 19-year-old, right?
Bless.
Bless.
Oh, guitar picking sucker. He's so great, and he's the best dude ever. I'm so lucky to
He
have
just
him.
can't drive.
But he is not allowed to drive anything I own or rent ever.
Okay.
Good answer.
You said you played the Opry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will you walk us through what it's like playing the? I know this has probably been answered 1,000 times, but I kind of want this for my back home people to understand what it's really like for the first time for someone to pull into that back parking lot and then walk in the building and then play on that stage. Like, what was that like for you?
Man. So I got to make my Opry debut last year in March. And I, first of all, found out about the Opry existing. My mama just, like I said, she raised me on classic country music. So obviously we watched everything to do with the Opry, as many performances as we could. And it was, what she taught me was just the mecca of country music. It's just where everyone who respected it wanted to be a part of. It's where it all started. And so I just truly took that as the Bible from the second she taught me that. And so my sights were on playing the Grand Ole Opry. It was the #1 top of my bucket list from the time I started singing. I sang the national anthem at a rodeo I was in when I was 7. And so from the time I was 7, the Grand Ole Opry was my goal. And when I first moved to town 9 years ago, moved to Nashville, didn't know anybody, just trying to find a job. Like, I just feel called to be here by God. I don't know. I got a job at the Grand Ole Opry because they just were hiring in the Opry shop, and I was like, nothing at the Opry is gonna suck. Like, I'll scrub the floors, scrub the toilets, whatever I can do to get in the Grand Ole Opry. And so I worked in the Opry shop, had my name tag, and ended up there it was less than a year. And then 7, 8 years go by before I finally connected enough dots in this town to get the opportunity to even play for the Opry before they could decide if they wanted to have me on. But once I got to be invited to be a part of something like that, I can't imagine what membership feels like, because anyone who plays is truly welcomed into this whole other world. And you talk about appreciating history. Opry has found a magical way to incorporate the past and where we're headed. And so there's pictures of your heroes hanging on your wall. They have actually used these dressing rooms that you're in. Also, you're sharing a dressing room space with these people. Vince Gill is in the dressing room across the hallway from me. And everyone just mingles. Everyone's doors are open. It is just like getting to go to heaven for a day. I am not kidding. And all of your heroes being there with you. You get to play with the best band in country music. It is, and stand literally in the spot where all of your heroes have stood. I'm so sorry. I can go on this rant.
Oh, I love it because
all day long.
My first time, I got to play it with Tracy. We played it several times, whatever. But my first time, my mom was there. Got to get her backstage, and so she saw those dressing rooms you're referring to, and it's just. But I was tearing up while I was there. Everybody does, and I feel like if you don't at least have the thought of tearing up, like, you're in the wrong spot, man. Like, why are you here? What are you doing?
I feel more that way at the Ryman because the history's even deeper there. Have you had a chance to play the Ryman yet?
So I got to sing during they have the Independent Music Publishers, the AIMP Awards, and I got to sing Megan Maroney's Tennessee Orange because it was the song of the year. So I got to sing on the stage technically, but I haven't gotten to do like my performance yet. So that's on high on my list to get to do.
I don't know if they still
do. That's number one venue for me. It always will be. Nothing will ever top that.
I don't know if they still do. Up until several years ago, the Radio City Rockettes would come to town, I think in November, and they would go to the Big Opry House, and they would stay there through December. And the Grand Ole Opry would move back to the Ryman for the holidays. Yeah. That was always my favorite time to go play the Ryman, is during the Opry time. So if you get a chance to do that, not pass that up.
Well, if they do that would really blow my mind to get to be a part of the Opry show at the Ryman.
It's really freaking
cool. They have
been
so sweet to me.
And slip out the back during intermission, go to Tootsie's and have you a drink to commemorate all the people that did it before.
Hey, it's unreal.
That's awesome, man. Loved it.
Yeah, thank you.
So as we wind down, give me all your social addresses and everything, and tell me where people can find you and find your tour schedule when you're out on the road. That way they can come. Feel free to put some money in the tip jar and maybe fill a tank of gas up from time to time.
Or man, just give me a smile from the crowd. That goes a long way. When I'm up here like, please. You hate me, just give me a little friendly nod. That's really what you can do. But just Mae Estes on everything. MAE ESTES, MaeEstes.com gets you to all the places. But I am super active on socials, so follow along if you're interested, because I work really, really hard at them, and you're going to see the honesty. Some days I'm like, damn, I hate social media when I'm posting on there. And some days I'm, have really, really crafted a piece of art that I'm excited to share on socials. And so I share every part of my journey and would love to have anybody who wants to jump on. Come on.
So very honored to spend a little time with you and get to know you. I'm a new fan. I love your music, what I have had a chance to listen to so far. And I look forward to sharing the stage with you very soon.
It is an honor to get to talk to you. And I will see you in Vegas.
That's it. Mae Estes, everybody.
Yeah.